Hello. So I thought I would do a video on how to knit, basically. But I'm gonna go like there's basics where everyone starts, and I'm gonna go one step before that, so like pre-lesson. Basically just because when I learnt to knit, I was so bad at it. Like literally just casting on, could not do it. Doing like the first ever stitch you'll ever do is a garter stitch, and I kept picking up stitches, I kept dropping stitches. The first scarf I ever made, it didn't go straight, it went like that, and there were just holes everywhere, and I could not work out how for the life of me that was happening. So what I find actually works a little bit better when you're learning is to first do arm knitting, which you don't need knitting needles at all, not required. So if you don't have any knitting needles while in this time of lockdown, what a merry time, this might actually be a little bit better as well. But yeah, so arm knitting, basically you're doing exactly what you would do on knitting needles, but instead of using knitting needles, your arms are the knitting needles, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm just gonna show you the pre-warning. The hardest part about arm knitting, which arm knitting is not difficult. When you first try it, it will be because it's something brand new and you'll sit there like, why do I look like such an idiot? Why can I not get this right? It's because you're learning a new skill. Every skill you learn for the first time, you're not going to do it perfectly the first time. That's just a fact of life. The sooner we accept that, the more productive this time of quarantine is going to be. Anyway, the hardest part of arm knitting is casting on. It's literally just casting on. As soon as you've done your cast on, everything else from that, easy. But the cast on is the most difficult bit. But once you've done it, you will never struggle with cast on ever again in your life, because you've done it on your hands and on your arms. So as soon as you have to do it on a knitting needle, you're like, oh, I know the process of this so well. I know it like the back of my hand because I was doing it on the back of my hand. Like when you get to doing it smaller on a knitting needle, it's fine. It's not difficult. But yeah, anyway, I ramble a lot. Prepare for a lot of detours. That's gonna happen. Anyway, so you want like chunky yarn. That's like the best thing. If you don't have chunky yarn, it might be a little bit more difficult, but literally just get like I've got some here. Get 2 yarns and just add them together and away. Look at that. Double the thickness. Easy solution. Me, yeah. I've got some chunky yarn, luckily, so I'm gonna use that. But you want to get like quite a long bit. Like if you stretch out your arms like that from like either side. I know it doesn't fit on the camera. Stretch out your arms, and then here we're gonna do what is called a slip knot. And this is the first thing you do when you create a knitting piece. And basically, how do I explain this? You want to make like a loop like this. So you have like this on your right side, bring it over, and you want to grab that string from your right side. So you've made this little, can I turn it around, this little circle, bring it over and grab that right side and pull it through, basically. Ooh, not that way. Yeah, so grab it, pull it through this little hole you've just made, and that's your slip knot right there. I hope that was clear enough. If not, I might do this anyway and just film a little, like, very close up exactly how to do a slip knot. But yeah, that's your slip knot, and you want to put it on your wrist, and like you can tighten it up a little bit so that it fits around. Because basically when we talk about tension and all of like how big your stitches are going to be, I've forgotten the word right now, but in knitting you'll have different size needles based on your yarn, or if you wing it like I do, you can just do random yarns on needles totally not meant for the size. But the size of the needle is the gap that you will have between each of your stitches that you'll make with your yarn. And that's all it is. And that, so you know, if you use big needles, your work is going to be big because you've got big gaps between your stitches. When you're using big yarn, you can't actually see the gaps. But if you're using small yarn, then the gap's massive. But yeah, so because our needle is the size of whatever, like your arm size is gonna have big holes. But that's alright, that's good. That's just how it is. But yeah, so if you want to keep it a little bit tighter, then the actual yarn tension, the size of those holes is going to be smaller. Anyway, now we come to the dreaded cast on. Honestly, it took me a while to grab this at first, but it is actually a lot simpler. And if you know how to cast on with knitting needles, it is exactly the same. So you have your side that isn't connected to the yarn, that side that is closest to you. Keep that side closest to you. The side that is connected to your yarn, to your ball, put that away. That's over there. So you should have your disconnected side on your left. Keep that in your left hand. And then you're going to use both hands here, but with your thumb, basically what I'm doing, that left side of yarn has gone from the slip knot, is wrapping around my thumb, and it's coming back down, and I'm grabbing it with my pinky and my ring finger. And I'm just holding it there. That is the left side. That is your disconnected yarn. Wrap it around your thumb, in front of these two fingers here, but around your thumb, and then grab it with your pinky and your ring finger. Okay? And that's what you should have facing you. Okay, and then with these two fingers that are just, floating about at the moment, grab the bit of your yarn, your right side, that's connected to the ball of yarn. And what you're going to do, I wonder if I can get a bit closer to show you, because it is a little bit intricate. Move that way. Here we go. I'm reversing it to show you. So that's your left side around your thumb, grabbed by your pinky. That's the left side. And then in these two fingers right here, that is the right side connected to the yarn. And you're going to take this hand that has the slip knot on it. You're going to go, so like say this bottom one, left side that's grabbed by your pinky, that is 1. The side that is wrapped around your thumb connected to your wrist, that is line 2. And the side that is connected to your yarn, that is line 3. So you are going to go with your hand under line 1, over line 2, grab line 3 and bring it through, and then you've got a loop that you just put your hand through and just tighten that up. And congratulations, you just casted on your first stitch. And that is it. And you just keep on going for however long your bit of yarn is. However long you've made this, based on your arm length, just keep on going. Because right now it doesn't matter how many stitches you've got, because we're just practicing. Whatever turns out, that's just, this is your sample piece, this is your first go. So with your left hand around the thumb, grab by the pinky and the ring finger. So pinky and ring finger, that's line 1. Around the thumb, connect to the wrist, line 2. And then with your pointer finger and your middle finger, that is line 3. And that's the yarn connected to the ball. So with your hand, under line 1, over line 2, grab line 3, bring it through, and then put that over your hand and tighten that up. That is it. So, if that takes you a little while to get hold of, don't even worry about it, because this is the first time you're doing it. It seems a lot more complicated than it is, but as soon as it clicks, you'll be like, oh, yes, I get it now. So, feel free to just watch that bit over and over again until it makes sense. Yeah, but once it does click, it'll be so much easier for you. You'll just be knitting away at the speed of light. People can't catch up to you. You're gone. You've made scarves. You've made blankets. You're good. You're golden. Well, maybe you're not making a blanket that quickly, because that's a lot of work. A lot of work, but it's the softest blanket that you'll ever have in your life. Yeah, basically. But I do hope that this is helpful for even one person. Because I know self-isolation, it sucks, especially if you're extroverted, and you can't go out and see people, because that's a lot of your mental energy, if you're extroverted or you're ambiverted, comes from seeing people and talking to people. So that is really difficult. But honestly, there are so many communities online, and so many friends. If you reach out to a friend and say, hey, haven't spoken in ages, but do you want to call? Everyone in the world right now is gonna get it because we're all going through this together. So don't worry. Like, it's difficult, but this is not forever. It's not. And self-isolation time is self-improvement time. Like, if there is a language you wanted to learn, or you wanted to learn to knit, or you wanted to learn an instrument, now is absolutely the time to do it, because there's nothing that's going to distract you, there's nothing that's going to get in the way, and you can share what you're doing with people on Facebook, on Instagram, and start conversations. Like, yeah, just start conversations, why not? And literally, it doesn't matter if what you're learning, you're not very good at it, because that is how we all start out when we're learning something. You never start learning something and are straight away like the best at it. Like, even if you have a natural knack for it, you don't start out like great at it. Because you have to get to know what you're doing first. You have to start to understand it. Yeah, so basically, don't beat yourself up and let's have a great time. Instead of having pity parties, let's dance and sing and just take it as a holiday, you know? Because there's only so long in a day that we can spend stressing, because it's just not healthy. It's not healthy. So inject a little positivity. Why not? Like, the worst that can happen is you'll get annoyed at yourself for how peppy you are, in which case you can be like a very lethargic, peppy person. It's up to you. I feel like I casted on way too many stitches, but oh well. I'm nearly there. Are you getting there? Are you almost there? Ooh. We have got a little tail. The side that isn't connected to your yarn, that's the tail. That's what that is. Just to explain. I would also like to put it out there that so I learned the basics of knitting from my mum, but for the most part, I really struggle with reading patterns, and not reading in general, but like reading knitting patterns and learning knitting the natural way. I think this is why I had to do arm knitting first, because I had to subconsciously set it in my brain before I could actually do it. Yes, I had a moment. Oh, that might be the end of our tail. If you can't get your hand over line 1, well, under line 1, over line 2, grabbing line 3, then that is, you can leave a little tail, that's fine. Okay. This is the fun part. All of it is the fun part, because knitting is the best. It is a wild ride. It's a riot. All of it is the fun part. This is the easy fun part. So, literally, okay, are you ready? Are you ready for this? I'm ready for this. I hope you're ready for this. So, you have all of your cast on stitches on this side. It's, if you've got really soft yarn like I do, it's like wearing a little arm warmer. It's super soft. I love it. And this is going to be great when it's knitted up. Literally, so your side that is connected to your yarn. This is the only bit we're going to be using now. Don't even think about the tail. The tail is just there. That is the end of the tail. That is it. The tail, we don't need it now. You're just using the bit that is connected to your ball of yarn. Basically, what we're going to do, so I've got this all on my right hand at the moment, just for context, but I don't know, maybe that doesn't matter. You can see what I'm doing. It's fine. So you're going to take your yarn that's connected. You're going to grab it with your hand that's got all the stitches on it, which I probably should have used a darker colour, but oh well. So you're grabbing it with your hand that's got all the stitches. You take one of these loops, which is what we call a stitch. So you take this stitch, you put it over the yarn that you're holding in your hand that's connected to the ball of yarn, and you put your other hand through that loop you've just made, and you've just made a stitch. That's it. And you just keep on going. Grab that yarn connected to the ball, put your cast on loop over that, put your hand through that loop. That's the second stitch. And if you want your tension to be smaller, keep it tighter. If you want the tension to me like looser, to have like bigger gaps, then like by all means keep it loose. I'm no expert on this. I watched YouTube videos to learn how to do a lot of my knitting, and I wing it a lot of the time. I just sort of do stuff until something happens, and then I'm like, I had a stitch, how do I do that? And then I just do it for like 2 hours until I'm like, oh, I just added some. I'm not going to go into that, it's going to get confusing, but I wing it is my point. Grabbing your yarn, put that little loop over, put your hand through it, that is your stitch. My point is, I'm not an expert, but you don't need to be an expert. Do things because they make you happy. You don't have to be the best at it, you just have to enjoy it. That is literally it. Do things that make you happy. That is the most important thing. So yeah, literally you're just going to keep on doing this until you get to the end. Which as well, this is a lot quicker than casting on as well, because you're just putting a loop over yarn that's already there and pulling it through. Like, I'm tightening it up, but I don't even really need to do that, to be honest. And also because our arms are obviously a lot thicker than needles, that's one row, and that is, normally a row is a lot smaller because they're on knitting needles. That is one row, and that's just because of your arms, They've spread out those stitches because that is how thick our knitting needles are today, because our knitting needles are our arms. There you go. I hope that made sense. I feel like a lot of stuff I do in knitting, it makes sense to me, because I've sort of developed my own language with knitting, but I'm not sure that what makes sense to me makes sense to the rest of the knitting community, but that's alright. I'm having a great time, and we can translate when we need to talk about knitting. It's fine. I've been on knitting courses once before, which was a lovely gift from my mum. We had a day of it, and I was on this knitting course, and they were saying like, okay, so now we're gonna do a yarn over, and we're gonna do all these things, and because I've winged it and taught myself a lot of it, and I've learned off of YouTube for a lot of it, I had no idea what the terminology was for all of these stitches. I was sitting there like, I feel like I don't know what stitch we're doing right now. I have no idea what we're doing in this course. And I kept being like, oh man, I don't know how to knit. But yeah, so it was literally just, there's terminology that comes from patterns, which, if you know me, I don't read patterns. I just make them up. There's a large reason why I do scale mail, because there's not really any patterns for scale mail, so I feel like I can't offend anyone there by not using patterns. Like, I just prefer to make them up. You can't go wrong, because you're making the pattern up yourself, So if you start to make a weird shape, you can be like, okay, I can work with this, I can adapt to this. I mean, sometimes you can't, and then you have to go back, but for the most part, you can wing it when you're making up your own pattern, and that's a lot of fun. So, yes. I don't even know how many stitches I've cast on. I did not count them. You can if you want, but I mean, you only normally do that when you're making a project, you count your stitches, because it's good to know how many, or like, if you're making a scarf and your stitch number isn't going to change, still count your stitches, because then when you're going through it, you can make sure that you still got the right number of stitches, that you haven't dropped any, that you haven't picked any up. That's a good way to keep track of what you're doing, and just to be really sure that you're not picking anything up and you're not dropping anything, you're keeping things consistent, because that is a big part of the skill in knitting, is just keeping things consistent. And arm knitting will help keep things consistent, because by doing this, like, you're literally doing it on your arms, right? You're setting that subconsciously how knitting works in your brain, and you'll start to understand, like, really on a physical level, how does knitting work, which, if you want to make patterns and things like that, that's a really important thing to understand, I think, like, how physically knitting actually works, because then once you know physically how it works, you can go, like, if you sew, for example, and you don't knit, you could literally take out a sewing pattern and look at the shapes and be like, okay, because I know physically how it works, I can make that shape up just off the top of my head, because I know what I need to do if I want to make a stitch be dropped or to pick one up, and I know what doing that will do to the shape. Once you understand knitting on a physical level, it opens up a world of possibilities to just play. Like, it really does. Yeah, I'm gonna knit one more row and then I'm gonna cast off, just because I feel like you've got it. You have. And if you haven't, you can watch this again. It ain't no thing. You're good. So I'll go back to the next row. So that we've done one row already. That's, you know, you can make a scarf in half an hour really easily by arm knitting. It's so easy to make like a scarf or anything like that arm knitting, because it knits up so quick, and chunky yarn, like soft chunky yarn, is so comfortable. So treat yourself. Like, it may be spring now, but it's still a little bit nippy, and honestly, who doesn't love a scarf? Save it for the winter. Do it, do your thing. So yeah, literally again, just take your yarn, grab it, put your stitch over that yarn, and put your hand through the loop you've just made, and just keep on doing that all the way back, and then that'll be row 2, and again, it's going to knit up really quickly. I'll probably cut out some of the me just rambling away, because otherwise, how long is this? Oh, it's already like 20 minutes. See, normally if you're just sitting there arm knitting, you'll do it so much quicker because you won't be rambling about nonsense, which is what I do. I mean, when I'm just knitting to myself, I don't ramble about nonsense. I sing about nonsense, but that's, you know, that's another matter. Don't judge me for that. I know you do it too. I know you're singing in your house and dancing in your pajamas. I know. So, yeah, normally if you're just sitting and like working away by yourself, it's a lot quicker. And also, like, remembering that I've been putting explanation into this video, so that's taken up a lot of the time as well. So, okay, you can make a scarf in like half an hour to an hour, but it doesn't, you don't need a lot of rows, and you'll see this when row 2 is done, which it will be in a second. You don't need a lot of rows to have a long scarf, like, not at all. If you want to do just oh, what's it called, like a cowl, the scarf that is like joined up, I can't remember what it's called, oh my gosh, but one of those, they're not very long, just the little wraparound, I think it's a cowl. You could probably do like 10 rows of arm knitting and you'd be good. That would be it done, and then you just have to sew the ends together. That's it. And I mean, like, you don't even have to sew it well. I can't sew well. I just put a needle and thread in the material and hope for the best, basically. If you want sewing tutorials, I am not your gal, I'm sorry to say. But knitting, I will actually do videos on knitting needles as well, and I will do different stitches if there is any particular stitch or anything, just anything knitting related that you would like me to go into. Yeah, please let me know. The only one I probably won't do is scale mail, just because you do need to have the scales, and I only have the stock for my shop. I don't have enough scales for just experimentational and samples at the moment, unfortunately, also because shipping, of course, is majorly delayed. So yes, unfortunately I can't do any scale mail videos at the moment, maybe in the future, but we'll see. Anyway, we've knitted 2 rows, just 2, and already it's quite long. And also, like, consider it's going to be spread out. I'm not spreading it out because the upper forearm is thicker than the lower forearm and I can't. But already, you know, you've got a bit of length from just 2 rows, literally just 2 rows for that. Yeah. So cast off, which is our final step, and again, it's easy breezy. So we are going to, and I'm going to use some terminology now. You know, we were grabbing and pulling our loop over it and then putting our hand through, you were knitting a stitch when you did that. So we are going to knit 2 stitches. So grab, put your stitch over, put your hand through. Ooh, I'll just tighten that one up. And then knit a second stitch, put your hand over, pull it through. And then we're going to go back to these knitted stitches, and we're going to take the first one that you knitted, not the second one, but the first one, the one that's furthest away, and we're going to bring it over the other stitch, and we're just going to drop it. It's gone. It's in the void now. And what that does, basically, when you drop it over that stitch, you're making a knot around that stitch so that your work won't come undone. That's it. So we're going to knit another stitch, because what you want to have always is 2 stitches. When you have 2 stitches, you drop one of them. That's it. So now we have 2 stitches on this hand. I'm going to drop the one that we knitted before. The one that's furthest away, we're going to drop it. So I've got 1 left, so I'll knit 1 more. Now we have 2. So the furthest away one, I'm going to drop it over that stitch. Again, it's made a little knot around that. And we're just going to keep on going. So that you've got 2 stitches. When you have 2 stitches, you drop it over. Woo, and that is it. That is how you cast off. That is how you finish your work. You're basically just knotting all of the ends so that it doesn't come undone. That is it. And I'll be able to show you as well this piece a little bit more, but you'll have your own piece as well that you'll be able to see it. Depending on how thick your yarn is, it might be quite holy, but that's fine. Like, as long as you've understood the principles here of how to knit, and if you haven't, again, that's fine. Watch the video again. Like, anyone can learn how to knit. I'm a solid believer of that. Anyone can learn how to knit. So, yes. Do not give up. I will not allow it. Not here, not today. I know, I see you being like, can I do it, Captain? But you can. You can, Scotty. You can do it. We're so close. Also, I should have said this before. If you didn't want to cast off right now, you're absolutely welcome to keep on knitting for more rows and get to like scarf length and then cast off. Also, once you've cast off, you can always undo your work, you know? There are no limitations. What you will need, which I did forget about, once you've casted off, you'll need scissors to cut your yarn from the ball of yarn. I do not have scissors with me right now because I forgot that you needed scissors to cast off. I didn't think that far. I just woke up and was like, yeah, I'm gonna make a video today. I did not think it through. You know what else I didn't think through? I made a cup of tea right before sitting down to do this video. It's right here, right? This is my lovely cup of tea, which is it's actually lukewarm. I was expecting it to be very cold because, I mean, that was also the first sip of tea and it's been almost half an hour. There was not a lot of pre-planning here. There really wasn't. Like, now I have cold tea and no scissors. But you know what? That's okay. I'm alright with that. I can make another cup of tea. So, I mean, actually, I'm one of those people who I will still drink my tea if it's lukewarm. As long as it tastes like tea, it's fine. I'll go for it. I'm not going to put it in the oven. Oh my god, no. Don't put your tea in the oven. I'm not going to put my tea in the microwave though, because that is madness. That is like a ham and pineapple debate. I do not understand putting your tea in the microwave. I can't do it. That is not a fresh brew. If you put it in the microwave, it is not a fresh brew. I'm sorry, but that is my stance. That is my tea stance. Do not put it in the microwave. Don't put it in the oven either. That's a terrible idea. Ooh, we're getting there. A couple of stitches left. Also, I hope that it's been helpful, this sort of mix of terminology, because I want you, if you are learning how to knit, I want you to be able to understand some terminology from the knitting world, because there is some. And I may not know all of the terminology, as previously stated, but I know the basics. I know what stitch is. I know cast off. I know cast on. I do now know yarn over and all of that as well. Slip stitches. That's a fun time. You can make some really cool looks with slip stitches. I'm not going to go into them now, but honestly, there's just so many possibilities. There is so much you can do. Like, go on Ravelry, go on Pinterest, have a little look. There is so much that you can do, and I'm excited. I'm excited for you to find out. Oof. This is the last bit. So we have 1 stitch and no stitches to make it 2. So I'm going to make this hole a little bit wider here, because normally you would cut off your yarn. So if you've got scissors, cut the yarn away. I forgot scissors, so I'm going to put this whole ball of yarn just right on through the loop. But normally you would just take your cut off bit of yarn and put that through the loop. That is it. So you just take your bit of yarn, put it through the loop and pull. And there is a knot now. I'm not going to do it because I don't have scissors, so it's slightly more difficult. But if you want to make a double knot, go for it. Treat yourself. But yeah, so in 2 rows, we got a little bit of thickness there. And because I cast on a lot of stitches, it's also quite long. Like, again, you don't have to cast on as many stitches. You can cast on, like, I don't know, probably like 10 stitches and make it just like short. But there's a lot of stuff you can do with arm knitting. I haven't done that much with arm knitting. Arm knitting was purely how I got to grips with how knitting worked, but there is a lot that you can do. So yeah, I hope that helped. I hope that your yarn is super soft, because mine is, and I literally just want to bury myself in it because it's so soft. Yeah. Hope you have a great day, and if you do have a cup of tea, I hope you don't forget about it, so it's still a hot, fresh brew, and you don't even have to think about putting it in the microwave, because that is slander. So, anywho, I'm gonna drink this tea now. Bye.